After, weeks of anticipation, we find out who the TNA investor is. And it's none other than former WWE superstar Montel Vontavious Porter, aka MVP. And, it was very interesting because when I was talking about this Thursday night on Impact Showdown Live, and to see the comments that were coming in after the fact, there were so many people that kind of took what I had said and really took it personal. I mean, there was one guy who actually wrote like 8 paragraphs talking about how, oh, well, I don't agree with you with regards to MVP because da 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 da. I mean, it was like a freaking essay contest or something. I mean, this guy just had like, if I was to print it out, it looked like it might have been about maybe 2 pages long of MVP, and he's giving links to basically defend what it is that he was talking about, all this. There's like so many people that were a little bit offended by some of the things that I said about MVP. It's all about presentation, boys and girls, and let me make sure that I set the record perfectly straight here on this episode. First off, I love MVP. I'm a big fan of MVP. I love the work that he was doing in WWE. For me, that's where I had came across him first. Big fan of his work. I mentioned how he had great feuds with Chris Benoit, Matt Hardy, Kane. He did some phenomenal work while he was there in the company. I also stressed that he did not get fired from WWE, that his contract came up, he decided to not renew, he wanted out, he wanted to part ways with the WWE, so he left on good terms. He's been on the wrestling circuit. He's done some stuff with New Japan, was even the IWP champion, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, he's been doing really good for himself in the indies. I have no problem with MVP being the investor. Am I a little bit disappointed? A little bit, because I was expecting a big name. I was expecting some type of a swerve, like maybe it was going to be Hulk Hogan that was going to get announced as the investor, or maybe it was going to be Kevin Nash, or hell, maybe it was going to be Scott Hall now that he's nice and cleaned up. I was looking for some type of a wrestler that has some credibility, that has some, not that MVP doesn't have credibility, but has that mad machismo weight in the wrestling industry. Oh, this is a draw. This guy was a draw. This is a big name right here. I was expecting something to that effect, but it was MVP, and I was just a little bit disappointed at how TNA just basically kind of presented him, especially with the commentators. They didn't even try to play up the fact that, oh, well, this is former blah, blah, blah champion, multi-time champion, or, this guy is blah. It just basically went into this overtime, and you just see him come out holding up his chain. MVP has arrived in TNA. MVP is the TNA investor, and it just goes off like that. And see, here's the thing. For that person that wrote that 8-page essay, for those of you that know everything about MVP, it's good that you know everything about MVP. But guess what? When you have a show that comes on once a week on Spike TV that can only draw, if it's lucky, about maybe 1 million viewers, there's not gonna be that many people that's gonna be like, oh, hey, that's MVP. They're not going to be able to point and say that. They're going to be scratching their heads and going, okay, so who is this person? And then that's going to force them, if they want to, depending on how passionate they are, it's going to force them to go online, type in that person's name, try to find out everything that they can about this person that they just saw on their TV. Or they're just going to be like, okay, that was kind of stupid. I don't even know who this person is. Why should I care? All right, let me go see what else is on. And you kind of risk losing that audience that you were trying to get. You're trying to grab their attention, keep them in. You're probably going to lose them for next week's show. Now, I'm not bashing the angle. I love this idea of a TNA investor and all that, and I'm definitely going to be very reserved to see where it goes. But I must admit, it's off to a rocky start right now as far as presentation goes. From the commentators setting this guy up properly. In retrospect, it really would have been nice if maybe hints would have been dropped all throughout the night. If maybe Rockstar Spud could have shared little snippets of news that he was able to uncover about this TNA investor to Dixie Carter, or maybe the episode could have began with Rockstar Spud saying to Dixie Carter, hey, I got some information on who could possibly be the TNA investor. I still don't know his name, but I know a little bit about his background that I can share with you guys. And then as he's sharing it in those scenes, Jeremy Borash, Mike Tenay, they could basically be recapping it for the audience and chime in their thoughts on it. Kind of play it off like that. It's all about the presentation. And for me, TNA, they kind of failed in that aspect. And here's another aspect in which they failed. And I didn't really realize this until a couple of you, our listeners, a couple of my colleagues brought it up, and I was just having a big old field day when I had rewinded back and I actually saw with my own two eyes. This guy is supposed to be a TNA investor, right? Yeah, he's showing up in a raggedy ass four-door. What the hell was that? An Explorer or something like that? This guy, he should be showing up in some type of I don't know if limos are played out now, but he should be showing up in something like that. A Rolls Royce. He should be showing up in a really nice, expensive car that looks like it got the biggest and most expensive waxing possible. You should see some really nice looking tires. The car doors, the windows, they should look sparkling clean. All that good stuff, right? You feel me on this? And just the presentation of it, it just kind of, God, I wasn't sure if maybe that was somebody from Southeast DC that was getting ready to pull up to that arena and, do some type of bodyguard work for the TNA investor. Now, some people are under the impression that MVP is just going to be a middleman, that he is going to be acting on behalf of the TNA investor. I don't know the spoilers yet, as I know they taped a couple of episodes already. Don't care to know about the spoilers. I will find out on Thursday night, just like all the other viewers. But for me, it's just kind of going off to a rocky start right now. But I just want to stress this, and I can't stress it enough. Don't have a problem with MVP. I think he's phenomenal. I have a problem with the way that he was just basically presented to the TNA audience, and they're going to need to rebound in a huge way in the coming weeks, and hopefully they can do so. And as I stressed on Thursday night, MVP needs to be utilized in the position that he's in right now that will definitely not overshadow the younger talent that is on the roster. I do not want to see him go down the path of a Chavo Guerrero. Now, let's be for real. Chavo's a decent / great wrestler, not as good as the late Eddie Guerrero, but in his own right, he is a good wrestler. But at the same time, he was hogging up a spot from younger talent on the roster, and that was just wrong. I don't want to see a 40 going on 41-year-old MVP be basically put in that same position. It just needs to be about elevating the talent, and in this position that MVP is in, he can definitely make it happen. So I hope TNA Wrestling, the route that they're going with MVP, it continues to stay on that course. If they're gonna make him wrestle, make it count when it counts the most. Make it be for special events. No reason to spam the hell out of it. You know what I'm saying? But that's my take on that. So I just want to make sure we clear that up, as it was very rowdy this past Thursday night on Impact Showdown with the comments that were coming in. And for full fallout on what you might have missed from TNA Wrestling, like I said, we do Impact Showdown live for you guys every Thursday night, only on YouTube. If you want the audio version of it, you'll be able to get it on SoundCloud. It's usually available 90 minutes to 2 hours after we go off the air on YouTube. But join us for that. Impact Showdown live on YouTube comes on at 11 p.m. only on youtube.com/the RCWR show.